Right, hello, and for my second evaluative question, I was asked how my media product represents a particular social group, and so to answer this I decided to compare my character of Hazel with Sarah Carter from The Descent. Some of the similarities between them is that Hazel is excluded socially, as we never see her with anyone else. Similar to this, Sarah is socially excluded. However, she does choose to do this with herself because she does have friends and family. Hazel doesn't come across as overly brave, partly because she looks like a normal girl. This is also seen in Sarah, as she looks like an average woman, but she does do very well to cope with things she does. Also, to many people, Hazel would be seen as insane, and what she sees is nothing more than a hallucination. This happens to Sarah, even though it is at the end of the movie. I thought it's important to have it in there. Some of the differences: we know little to nothing about Hazel's family or where they are, whereas we know this with Sarah from the first bit of the opening. We only see Hazel alone, and so suggests she has no one left to turn to, whereas Sarah does have obvious friends and family she can go to if she needs help. The shadow that Hazel sees comes across as quite harmless, as it doesn't actually do anything within our film opening. However, the creatures that Sarah sees are obviously dangerous. However, a difficulty with comparing the two characters is that Hazel, we only see in the first 2 minutes of our opening, whereas with Sarah, she's a fully developed character in an entire movie, so to compare these two characters was quite difficult. I also looked at textual analysis elements to help compare them, and to do this I only used the first 2 minutes of The Descent so I could compare them equally. Camera work: during the first 2 minutes of my film opening, I used the camera to track around Hazel, as this created a sense of suffocation. A close-up was used to show the audience her face and to help convey her emotion. Whereas in the first 2 minutes of The Descent, the camera is continuously moving, suggesting that Sarah just doesn't stop and she's quite action. Also, we don't really know who the protagonist is in The Descent until they're off the boat, and then it tracks Sarah. Mise en scène: in my film opening we see close-ups of mugs, clothes and makeup, which shows it's quite a messy room and that she doesn't have the best living conditions. Also, the curtains are close, suggesting that she doesn't want anyone to see in and there's some sort of secret there. In The Descent we see Sarah in a raft boat with the correct gear, suggesting that she has a lot of money. In the water there's a lot of rocks and rapids, showing she has confidence in this situation. Settings and props: Hazel does not use any props herself, but we have seen through the mise en scène that she does have a few things. The two settings we see Hazel in are her rundown bedroom and a park, which is quite a common rural area and it's nothing particularly special. However, we see Sarah in a boat with using the paddles, that shows she has some experience in that activity. But the main location we see her in is on a river, which suggests she does like being outside. Lighting: Hazel Rooms uses low-key lighting as it's quite dark all the time. Also, when she's outside it's quite overcast and it's still not the best of weather, whereas when Sarah's outside it is quite bright, giving a happier atmosphere. However, it is still quite overcast. Positioning characters can be important to give a sense of where the relationships lie and help character development. Hazel's position on the edge of her bed and does not look very comfortable. This gives a sense of the fight or flight response and that she will be going towards the flight. She's set low in the shadow, suggesting that he has power over her and she's in quite a vulnerable position. When she's sat outside, she has her back to a tree. This prevents anyone from walking up behind her, suggesting she's a bit nervous. When Sarah's in the boat, she is at the back, suggesting that she's a bit more inexperienced compared to the other characters. When they get off the boat, she does put her child on a rock above her, showing that she will put her child first. Right, costumes: Hazel wears normal clothing and not overly anything special. However, she is wearing boots with a slight heel, suggesting she didn't know she was going to be running. Sarah, on the other hand, is wearing clothing bought for going in the water and is wearing a helmet, showing she is sensible and should be partaking in that activity. Body language. Hazel is hunched over throughout most of the opening. This shows she's not comfortable and doesn't want to be in this situation. She has her knees brought up to her chest, which is the fetal position, and it's quite protective. And she's got her head down and shows she's perhaps scared to look up. Contrast to this, Sarah is very relaxed, and that shows she's close to the people she's with. And when she's on the boat, she's happy to lean over the side and shows she's confident in that situation. However, she's not very open towards other characters, suggesting that she is perhaps new to that group. Character introductions. We first meet Hazel in her room, and because she's the only one there, she is obviously the protagonist. Because of her costume and setting, we get an idea of her class and status, which is obviously not the best. We first see Sarah as part of a group, and so defining her as a protagonist can be quite difficult at first. But what we do learn is that she's quite adventurous and family orientated. The music. During our film opening, we mostly use ambient sounds, and that starts right at the beginning, carries through to the end, and so you can't escape it. But it also becomes quite overbearing, which is perhaps how Hazel is feeling. During the descent, it starts off quite fast to mirror the fast-paced action that is going on, but then once she's in a more serious place with her family, the music slows down again. I decided not to look at Sarah Carter for this bit, but I looked at stereotypes because I felt that these were important. So female stereotypes in movies are that they're quite irrational and scared, that they scream and cry a lot, and the girly and become the damsel in distress. They also usually have a romance with the male lead. We challenged pretty much all of these, I feel, because Hazel's not overly irrational, because in her position most people would act in the same way and try to escape it. In the opening, we do not see her scream or cry at all, and instead remains silent. And although this could be seen as being a damsel in distress, I do not feel that this would have been apparent until further into the film. Also, we challenged the romance because we do not see any other character, and so the idea of a male lead just is not there currently for a romance to work with. I also looked at mental illness stereotypes that can be dangerous and unpredictable. Childlike, they're usually the killer, or their illness is blamed for visions even, and they're usually a loner. We challenged again most of these. From what the audience can see, Hazel is not dangerous, but she might be a bit unpredictable because she does suddenly get up and run away. She does not appear to be overly childlike, she's just very normal and mundane. In the opening, we see she's not the killer, but instead the victim. However, we do conform to the stereotype that she is a loner, as we do not see her with anyone else, and so cannot say that she isn't a loner.